Hello, everyone. It's 4 o'clock. We've had a lot of presentations. So lots of familiar faces in the audience. It's wonderful to be with friends and colleagues here. Those who are horrified at the prospects that I'm going to solve a Rubik's Cube on stage again, rest assured, I'm not going to do that. If you have no idea what I'm talking about, grab the QR code and check it out. We put out a video that tried to explain some of the fundamentals of innovation, applied innovation principles, through a very complex problem like the Rubik's Cube, which I think most of us have played with. I have one here. I'm not going to do that today, but it is a very frustrating problem, very hard to solve. And actually, when you study it and learn how to solve it, you realize at the heart of it is how you solve complex problems. The cube has 43 quintillion permutations. I still can't get my head around that. That's 100 times more than every second since the beginning of the universe. This 26-piece thing has 43 quintillion permutations. So it's like the ultimate complex problem. But that's how the world is. The world is full of many variables. And when you're trying to change the world or improve the world, you're trying to reconfigure those variables in the world. And fundamentally, that's what innovation is about. So what I want to do today is talk a bit about some of the beliefs that are driving us the way we're trying to do this for the rail sector. Some of you have heard me talk about this before, so I won't labor it too much, but it's important to always start with the beliefs, especially when dealing with something like innovation, which I find is really quite a misunderstood concept. But then I want to spend the time talking about what are the steps we've taken this year? What are the things we've been doing to start to move the sector towards the things we're trying to solve for? So, one thing we did earlier this year is in mobilizing GBRX, the first step we took really was doing a systematic review with the industry. That's not everybody. I couldn't fit everybody on the slide, but it's a catch of some of the people we've been participating with. And in doing a systematic review was to achieve two things. Number one, understand the barriers. We all talk about innovation barriers. It's hard to innovate. But you find that it's really abstract. It's really hard to grasp what it is. Is it us? Is it just us? Are we all just rubbish at innovation? Is that the issue? You look around and you see lots of innovation. There's lots of really good stuff, especially in the supply chain. You buy a new train, it's got brilliant technology on it. So what is it? So when we do a systematic review, it's really understandable. And when you look at the design of the system as we have it, why it's really hard to penetrate with technology and innovation. Number one, it's a highly fragmented system. Yeah, we know that. We can see that. Why does that matter here? Well, a lot of the big technological shifts that we need to see, like digital signaling, which I led over a number of years convening the sector around, cross multiple boundaries. In a highly distributed accountability structure, that's really difficult. If you just look at the East Coast Main Line, the next big leap we're taking, there's over 30 participating organizations. That's before you get into supply chain, right? So you're trying to deliver change across so many organizations. So fragmentation makes it difficult. It's not insurmountable. On theory, we can draw exactly what needs to be done. We need to modify a train. It is not beyond the technical skill of this industry to modify a rail vehicle. We need to train a driver in 3 hours on a simulator. Yeah, sure, a few days, blah, blah, but you can do it in a few hours on a simulator. And we need to upgrade infrastructure. Try and do that across hundreds of rail vehicles, tens of ownership models, distributed asset, integrate across the technical specification, and so on. The fragmentation becomes a big deal. The second is we have high designed-in barriers to change. And you can see them. They're not magic, right? The network code. Introduce a change to the system. It's a highly consultative process. Lots of people say, well, I'm not sure about this, and are we sure about that? You've got trade union engagement if you're going to affect people. You have procurement barriers. We're subject to state procurement law, and there's ways in which you buy and don't buy things as a result of that to ensure fair competition. Safety validation. Who wants to get on a train where we just put random technology on it and see what happens, right? So some of these things are designed in for good reason, but the way we apply them can be really frustrating, both for initiators of change and especially for supply chain. The last is scarcity of skill. We have a real skills challenge, not only the demographic shift that we're going to see in the sector over the next few years, but by definition, new things are outlier. You can't demand that change from just the average system. Those who are pushing boundaries, those who are developing new things, are by definition on the edge in capability, in skill set, and in the thing, because the thing is not common yet. If it was common, it wouldn't be innovation. So that's a big challenge. So it requires something different. The other few points to highlight is that innovation is also really fundamentally misunderstood. So when you look under the skin of this category, you find that people think innovation is like running hackathons, right? So like new ideas, get people together, generate stuff. That's not innovation. Innovation is, you can only really claim innovation if you have changed something in the world. The term I use is displacement from the Rubik's Cube. You have to actually reconfigure something. In business speak, it's change. Business change, change. You have to realize that change in the real world. That's innovation. And kind of overplaying hackathons and kind of idea generation as what innovation is about is like saying we're elite marathon runners, but we actually do the occasional 4K run. It's not good enough, yeah? That's not elite marathon running. Running the distance, as the analogy goes, is hard. There's a few triathlon and beyond runners in the audience, I know. They're like, yeah, it's not as hard as you think. For you, for the rest of us, I couldn't even imagine running a marathon distance. It is really difficult. The other is because of the accountability, this ownership structure is messy. Who owns innovation in the sector? Does anyone need to? Maybe not, right? Maybe we don't need someone to own it. Innovation's up to you, up to everybody. But if we're saying there's barriers, does someone need to own how we try and unlock that or convene that? And then there's a competence challenge. Innovation can't be demanded out of the average. You know this in your organizations. The organization needs to run in a governed and structured way, and how you do technological change in particular needs to be controlled. If you spend time with technology companies as I have, the cliche ones in the kind of popular culture, they are absolutely rigid in their production. I mean, they manufacture things to 9 sigma, yeah? So it's not that everyone turns up every day and just throws wacky ideas around, but they have a very structured and competent approach to innovation. When you look innovation categories, there's roughly 18 activities in innovation. I said roughly, there's precisely 18 activities in innovation. It's roughly, and a precise number is a bit weird, isn't it? And largely we do research, we do a heck of a lot of pilot funding. Yeah, and innovation is not hackathons and pilot funding. And the frustration in supply chain is we keep doing pilots, but we're not penetrating the system. So as part of this engagement, what we heard back, too many pilots, repeat pilots. Sometimes there's an advantage in that. People do get seed funding through the chaos. So that's okay. That's helped some people make progress. But in the interest of the system, that's not a good thing. We have no clarity on what's important. That's what we hear back, especially from supply chain. What are the big things you care about? And if you don't, say no, so we can not keep chasing things that are not going to happen. Adoption pathways. We can experiment, we can pilot, and then what? What do we do with that? How do we scale? Funding fog, funding fragmentation, catapults and first of a kinds and innovation funds and this and that and the other. There's no clarity on therefore how these resources are being prioritized. Product approval, very challenging to navigate. Again, designed in barriers for good reason, but we could do better. Commercial barriers, both in the ecosystem, but also in terms of procurement. How would you develop an AI model or a data integration platform, test it out, and then scale it for the network in a public sector procurement environment? If you have an answer, see me afterwards. I'm going to be around. And technical bias. The system has a lot of technical bias. People have their pet projects. They have their preferred technologies and so on, and it's hard to navigate that. So, what is innovation not? It is not random solutions. It is not hackathons. It is not about wacky ideas. It is about solving really knotty, real-world problems by deeply understanding them and being outcome-focused in what we're trying to achieve. They're not about quick wins. Yeah, that sounds nice, but the fallacy with quick wins, which I use on the Rubik's Cube example, is that if you solve for the easy things, you have fallen for the infinite resource fallacy. You've diverted the few resources you have on easy things that anyone could have solved, and you haven't put the attention on the things that really need solving to determine whether you can even solve the thing that you're trying to solve. The example that Google X give is the monkey example. That's why the monkey on the cube is, if you had to train a monkey to read Shakespeare while standing on a stool, what do you do first? And the easy thing is to go, oh, let's build some stools and show progress and take pictures of it and so on. But actually, you need to figure out whether you can train a monkey. You learn everything you can, figure out how you'd go about doing that and so on. And that then determines whether it's viable. So it needs the resolve to focus on the really hard things, which is not easy. It is not additive. Innovation isn't about just adding new stuff into a complex system. It has to involve displacement and change. And lastly, it is as hard as changing habits. Who here finds it easy to change a habit? You know, who's tried a diet and stuck with it permanently and so on? There's a few hands going up. Shall we swap? You can do this. 22 days. But the point of saying that is to understand the game. That's the game we're playing in, and therefore there are particular beliefs and principles that we have to carry into that game. So, as a result, the opportunity of 2025 with a new government, with a new ministerial team, with Great British Railway put into motion, with the learnings we have gained from digital signaling, with railway integration happening through the shadow GBR phase, and the learnings we've done from other sector, we've mobilized GBRX. Is that right? I'm being given a 1-minute warning when I'm only 10 minutes in. How did that work out? I'll work my way through. There's still about 45 minutes to go, I think. Right. Gosh, that's thrown me off a bit. There's a bit of a timing mismatch. So, anyway, the opportunity of all that means that we have mobilized the strategic innovation body for the railway sector. Its purpose is to fundamentally convene the sector and build capabilities that allow us to do things we can't do today. That is the purpose. The focus is to obviously unlock the barriers that we see for adoption in the rail sector and build skills for the future. I really stress this point of building capability to see things and do things we can't do, because it is not enough just to intend that we're going to solve innovation. That's when people basically just mess about with the cube and say, well, we tried innovation, it didn't work out, right? No, we've got to apply these principles into action. So recognizing the time, I'm still going to take the time to just walk through. So as a result, we're building a capability set. We have a network of advisors, a network of relationships allowing us to do things that we can't do today. We're applying a methodology and we're embedding that into how we do things. All of it is about capability to do things that we can't do today. What does that look like? What I want to do is give you an exposure to some of the key steps that we've taken over the last few months. One of my favorite sayings, it comes from a Spanish poem, "Traveler, there is no path, the path is made by walking." And if ever there is such a thing, it is this. We are not going to solve complex problems by talking about them at presentations like I'm doing now. We have got to take steps in the real world with the people who own those problems. So what are the kind of things that we are doing? Earlier this year, one of our kind of genesis steps is obviously everything we've been doing in digital signaling. Earlier this year, the Northern City Line migrated to no signal operation. It's the first migration to digital signaling since the Cambrian pilot in 2011. It's taken our sector over a decade plus to figure out how to do that. And everything that went into making that happen has been foundational in understanding what it takes to overcome these barriers, and is being built into our approach in GBRX. So this has been a huge moment for us and for the sector, and for it to happen with no drama. Success in our sector is when people wake up in the morning and the system has become better and almost nobody knows about it. Through the convening that we've done and the engagement, we're building an innovation roadmap. That's to give greater clarity to the sector. We've published GBRAX 2025, which talks about the technology trends we care about, sensing technologies, data integration, AI models, and so on. And we've organized those around what we call opportunity spaces. These are the big things that if we don't do something together as a sector to create clarity of the steps we're going to take to unlock barriers, we can talk about them in 10 years' time and they will have not moved very much. Because those very same areas, when I engage with people, they tell me that they've been trying to solve these for over 10 years, some of them even 15 years. It's quite depressing when someone shows me a sensing technology they've been trying to penetrate the system for over 15 years, right? And again, because of the complexities we described, so no one's fault. So this is all about generating clarity that we can then prioritize resources and attention around. We have convened the sector around the AI action plan, which reflects the government's published plans and ambitions. We started that by doing a maturity assessment in the sector. AI is incredibly misunderstood. Everyone thinks it's a bunch of magic that's just going to solve everything. There are many technologies within the whole category of AI, and how they're used in a safety critical environment needs very careful consideration. So part of our first steps was a maturity assessment about the railway to understand our readiness, which parts of the sector and how it works. There's no perfect way to do that, but it's a sense-making tool. So we did that with the sector, and that's helping dictate how we go about the action plan. We've also now convened the sector around the action plan. Extensive consultation, expertise. We've formed an AI advisory council, as people like Dr. Katrina Campbell, Dr. Laura Gilbert, and others who've been instrumental in a number of applied areas of AI and government strategies for AI. And what will come out in the coming months is clarity on the key things we've got to put in place for the sector, how we assure AI in a safety critical environment like ours, and then what are the big priority areas we're going to go for. I could talk more about that maybe in the questions. Where am I going? We've also just founded the AI incubator for the sector and just appointed Dr. Sarah Schlobem to lead that. With the support of the DCIT, one of the government departments, we learned from what they've done around this to really understand, does the sector need something like that? By the way, everything we have done, I have always started with the question of, does this need anything? The do nothing option is always our first. Can we let AI run? Just let it run, it'll do its thing. And the response from all the experts is, given the safety criticality, we do need to get some capability, some competence, some assurance, and some direction, and then solve for the underpinning issues. AI is all data. There's no data environment, there's no AI, completely fictional. So we're putting in motion the things that do matter to then allow the sector to progress on the things that could be progressed without that. So the big role of the AI incubator is to focus on AI applications that are really complex, that require care, like, for example, the network planning area, or the application of computer vision for asset inspection. These are safety critical, very complex areas that need very careful application. We have launched with NSAR a sector data science and AI apprenticeships program. We're going through the mobilization phase of that. I actually wrote on a day or two ago to many people in the sector, some of whom are in the room, to make sure you're aware and invite participation. There's a mobilization event in November. And the whole aim of this is to facilitate skills development in the sector. It's really difficult, especially in some of the big train operators, to take on 1 or 2 data scientists. So they'll drown in the system. So we're convening them through NSAR to ensure development and training while they work in the field in your organizations. And that is about building the skill sets that we need in the sector that allow us to solve the problems we want to solve. Right, very last few points before everyone panics about time. So we're finalizing something called the X platform. One of the big things we've heard about from supply chain is it is incredibly frustrating when trying to interact with the complex ecosystem to figure out who to speak to around technology adoption. Sometimes it's obvious, there are discipline sets, signaling is signaling and track is track and so on. But in many areas it isn't. So we've been designing this with the sector and we're almost ready to go. We're just stress testing how we work with it so we don't get inundated. But the whole point of this platform is to provide a channel for supply chain to interact with propositions and problems. And then to give the market a more constructive approach to figure out, well, is this even worth pursuing? Is it even viable? is it fundable, and how do we get through propositioning in an effective way? And then where something is viable and credible, how we help overcome those barriers. I'm really excited about this because it'll bring a lot of structure that's needed and help discriminate where we need to. I'm also nervous that we're going to get inundated and it's going to be very difficult to deliver that. So we want to get it right. One of the areas we've been working on data integration is Southeast Railway. Really excited. We've started hitting some early milestones. What's been brilliant about Southeast Railway is one of the first integrated railways. Steve is a brilliant business partner in this because he's helping us understand what we need to do to get business units ready for technological change. One of the challenges is not just the technology issue, but can the business unit cope with change? If you've got new trains getting rolled out, can you deal with other changes on top of that? Or if you go through a major timetable change, can you deal with change? So the question of what business readiness looks like is really crucial, and Steve is our pathfinder for that. Very lastly, we've done a lot of learning around some of our opportunity spaces. One of the areas we've dug deep in with various technology providers is digital twins. It's one of the technological themes people have been talking about for many years. And what we're exposing is that the way we're going about that isn't sound. There is a real challenge that we think of digital twins as like an embodied perfect replica of the world. Such a thing not only doesn't exist really, it is astronomically expensive to sustain. If you did computer vision and you developed a point cloud, the level of data means you can't even hold on to that data for more than a week. And we have examples of companies that are digital. They're not even physical companies. They've built digital twins and it costs them £500,000 just to turn on that digital twin for an hour. Let's say £500,000. So, part of the learning is, one of the first steps for me is learn everything we can from the mistakes of others to not make the mistakes of others. So that's a really important step that we are taking. Right. We're doing loads with universities around frontier technologies. Quantum is one of the big ones. I'll skip over that for now. So a lot of you hear me talk about no one else is coming. I love this. This image is beautiful. I spent ages trying to find a really high quality. It's Bruce McCallan, 1984, February the 7th, the first person ever to float in space untethered. Would you do that? Isn't that insane? Imagine coming off the space shuttle and just kind of floating on your own and just hoping the thing doesn't drift away from you and then you're stuck in there forever. For me, really, it symbolizes the loneliness of trying to make big change in the system. But I'm amongst friends today, and you're all pioneering things in your world. But what I take from that is the accountability that there are no magic solutions. No one is coming to save us. Reform is going to make things easier, but it's going to be up to us to make it happen. So that's what we're going to do. Thank you.